I was sitting in my living room across from a friend, and I was sharing with her the situation that I was going through with another friend of mine that she didn't know about. This other friend that I was close to, that I really cared about, but whose actions or rather inactions had hurt me. तो मैं explain कर रही थी, I'm feeling hurt, I'm a little upset, I expected them to do something, but they didn't. And then I would cushion that whole, those all those feelings by talking about the fact that I do understand where they were coming from. I do understand maybe what their thought process was. I understand that their intentions were good. Almost like I was actually justifying their actions by negating my own. And I kept going back and forth between these two of expressing my emotions, but also um, understanding and justifying their actions. And once I was done with that, in that moment, my friend looked at me and said the words that actually significantly changed the way that I live my life. She said, Akriti, it's okay for you to feel angry with your friend, even if you understand why they did what they did. It was just those simple words giving me permission to feel my feelings completely that were like a light bulb moment. It was like, oh, so I actually can feel both these feelings. I can allow myself to feel all my feelings completely. And ever since that moment, my perspective about life has changed a lot. And I've realized that we're not these beings with this binary view of life, the good and the bad, the black and the white. We're actually quite complex with all these complex feelings, and we should be able to embrace that. And from that, I came up with this theory. It's called the both things can be true theory, or sometimes I call it the and theory, where it's not about this or that. It's not about being compassionate or angry. It's actually about being compassionate and angry. It's about um, missing someone, but also accepting that it was time to move on. It is about loving something, but also accepting that it has its flaws. It's not about this or that, it's actually about this and that. And it's funny that it took me almost 30 years and a friend who gave me permission to feel my feelings to actually realize this. I needed someone else's permission to feel my feelings completely. And since that time, I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about why did it take me so many years to understand this very simple concept, and why is it so important for all of us to understand and embrace this concept. So why did I and many people like me struggle with fighting with my emotions for so long? What was the reason that I stick to just one way of thinking and being? And the first thing that comes to my mind is we've just been taught to think like that, right? जब से हम छोटे थे, it was easier as for kids to explain things to kids. It's just easier to talk about the good and the bad, the yes and the no, the right and the wrong, right? आप बच्चों को लाइफ की या सिचुएशन की nuances नहीं समझा सकते. So you tell them that this is good and this is bad, this is okay and this is not okay. And I see these as, जब हम cycling सीखते हैं, so we use training wheels. So the reason why we were taught in a very binary way was because at that time we needed those training wheels to understand the right and the wrong. But along the way, we became so accustomed to those training wheels कि हम भूल गए कि उनको उतार के हमें cycling भी करनी है without those. We have to let go of those things that we were taught because it was um, easy for us to learn that way. But now it's time to unlearn that and embrace the complexities. When I think back on that moment, it literally felt when I think back to the moment when my friend told me that it was okay to feel both the feelings. It literally felt like I could be at ease with myself. I could stop fighting with myself, and it felt like the wheels came off, and now I could cycle. I could cycle freely and feel the breeze and just enjoy myself and the complexities of life. So yeah, I think the intent was good. It was to train us, but we've grown up now. We don't need those training wheels anymore. So I think it's time to let that go. But yeah, I guess that was the intent of why we picked up on this. The other reason is that हमारे ब्रेन का एक ही प्राइमरी काम है. बहुत सारे काम हैं, but the primary thing is to make sure that we are safe. And putting things into boxes without messing with the gray area, consistency and clarity actually makes our brain feel safe. It doesn't have to deal with the muckiness of the gray area. या तो ये करें या तो ये करें. Good versus bad में good is safe, bad is unsafe. Black is unsafe, white is safe. Um, up is safe, down is not safe. So it makes it splitting things into boxes or into extremes and picking one over the other actually makes our brain feel safe, which is why we choose why we tend to choose one over the other. It's so that our brain feels safe. Our brain actually needs some kind of internal psychological consistency to feel safe. अगर इतने सारी complexities होंगी तो it'll always be in like an alert mode, trying to figure out how to choose between the many options that we have. So it's just easier. So our brain chooses to put things into boxes. But again, um, as we grow up, it's time for us to understand that it's no more about safety. Now, actually, when we were growing up, there was strength in segregation between two boxes, but now there is strength in being able to accept all of our emotions and all of the nuances and complexities of our emotions. The third thing is we think that if two things are opposite, then they are contradictory. And how can we accept two contradictory things, right? It actually boils down to us sticking to a particular identity that we have. If we have an identity that we are um, very attached to, so how can we accept something that is contradictory, right? How can we that goes against our values, that goes against what I think of myself? So इसको explain करने के लिए I have this 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 way of being, the way that I was, I still am. I consider myself an extremely optimistic person. I am the glass half full, the sunshine, the rainbows and butterflies. All of those kind of things. I'm that person. But I had attached my identity to being a very positive person. Um, we've been taught that your thoughts create your reality. Think positive, and positive things will come. You have to be grateful for what you have, and all of these things are true. All of these things are things that I believe in. But the thing that was happening with me only focusing on being positive was that I was negating all the things that were troubling me. I couldn't complain about a job because how could I complain? At least I have a job. I have to focus on being grateful because when I focus on being grateful, I'm focusing on being positive and positive things will come, right? That's what we were taught. And I kept doing that with everything in my life. Like I couldn't complain or accept that things were not going fine because in my head, that would mean that I was being ungrateful. this actually is what toxic positivity is. It is forcing ourselves to choose a narrative by rejecting the other one. And that's what I was doing. I was rejecting another part of me, a whole part of me, because it was not going with my identity of being positive, and it was not going with this whole identity or this the value system I had of looking at the brighter side and being grateful. But what that taught me was that if I keep focusing on the things that I'm grateful for and I keep negating the things that I am not happy with, then I'll just stay there. I'll stay in those situations because I'm doing nothing to change them. For me to change those situations, I need to first accept them. And so, yes, I am very grateful, or I was very grateful that I had a job, that I had um, an income, but it was also okay for me to accept that I was not happy in it. Both things can be true. It's not one or the other, it's one and the other. And accepting that situation allowed me to then make changes and move towards living actually a more positive life, because I was accepting every part of myself, not just focusing on the identity that I had created. I think similar to this, I think mothers deal with this a lot. There's a lot of mother's guilt, like, right? Like, I think mothers love, I mean, obviously they love their kids, but there's also this side of them that's exhausted and tired and probably annoyed. But there's so much of shame in acknowledging that. How can you acknowledge that you're tired of your kids or that they exhaust you because you're supposed to love them? But why can't both things be true? You can love your kids, but you can also acknowledge that it is tiring. It is so exhausting to take care of them. Or and it's not just for mothers, it's any caregiver, even if it's for old people. You're doing it with good intent, but it can also be exhausting. You can accept that. It is okay to accept that you miss something while accepting that it was good that you let it go. It is okay for you to feel proud of yourself while accepting that you are still far off from where you want to be. It is okay for you to love your country. I love my country. I I absolutely love my country, but it is okay for me to accept that there are a lot of things that we need to work on. And that's I think that's why we choose binary. It makes sense in our head. It makes us feel okay in here. It gives us clarity, but it's also still those training wheels that are now holding us back. That made sense at one point of time, but I don't think they're making sense anymore, because we are not binary beings. We are very complex and nuanced with our emotions and our feelings. And it's actually, if you look at it, it moves us from being rigid to being flexible, to being fluid, right? It's, I'm going to say it again. I think when I figured it out, it just felt like it was such a strength. I could just stop fighting with myself. Um, it gave me a very different sense of clarity and calm, and it just felt like something clicked. Let's understand why this shift is so essential for us now. मैंने बहुत सारे reasons दे दिए हैं, but the biggest thing that shifted for me was that I stopped fighting with myself. I genuinely just stopped fighting with myself to choose one over the other. It became okay for me to just accept both things, accept the and theory. Just it gave me so much of peace. I can't even express it. Second, it allowed me to stop suppressing, negating और invalidating myself. जब मैं try कर रही थी to choose one over the other, choosing one meant that I was negating the other, I was invalidating the other. But when I stopped doing that, I allowed myself to validate it. And there's a lot of science already about what suppressing your emotions does to your body. So this became like the healthier option. It made sense. It that I am so much more than just duality, and I need to accept it. So it allowed me to accept, validate, and no more negate my feelings, no matter what it was, contradictory, different from my identity. Doesn't matter if it's coming from within me. It's trying to say something and express something, and I started to allow myself to do that. The third thing is, it helped me look at the whole spectrum of the situation, right? It allowed me to see all points of views. It opened up my horizon and my lens to looking at any situation or any problem, because now it was no more one dimensional. And I apply this to the now everything in my life, that if I can be a being that can have two contradictory emotions, then so can others, and that means that so can different situations be looked at from a different lens. So it allowed me to soften my judgment, to become more perceptive, to just look at life from a more holistic view. And fourth, and most important was, well, it's not most important, but it's quite important. It helped me be more empathetic towards myself. Before that, there was just so much of judgment between choosing one over the other. But after that, it helped me be kind to myself. It helped me be empathetic towards myself, and it in that process, it also helped me be kind to others, right? Again, but once you start understanding yourself and your emotions, you realize everybody's like that. So it helped me to be more empathetic and kinder to other people who were having contradictory emotions. It was no more about me trying to fit them into boxes, because I wasn't going to put myself into any box anymore, because I'm this complicated, nuanced, beautiful human being with different emotions and different feelings, just like you and just like everybody else. And it was just this one split moment, this moment when my friend said those words, and everything about life, just not everything, but a lot of things about life started to make sense. So if you are struggling with two feelings of um, loving yourself but also struggling with different parts of yourself, then I would say use the and theory. If you are struggling with loving your job but not finding it fulfilling, then use the and theory. If you are struggling with loving your parents and being grateful for your parents but being angry with them for something that they did, use the and theory. Both things can be true. It doesn't have to be one over the other. My friend changed my life, and she gave me permission to accept both sides of myself. And if no one's done that for you yet, then I want to give you that permission. You are a beautiful human being with different emotions, sometimes contradictory, sometimes complex. But I want to tell you that both things can be true. And accept and embrace those two things. Take off those training wheels, and it's time to now cycle and feel that fresh air on your face. And just feel how liberating it feels when you don't have to fight with yourself. This small theory, both things can be true, or the and theory. Actually, I haven't been able to figure out which one I like better. But this theory just it changed my life. I know that there's a technical term as well in psychology. Not sure what it is. Um, but yeah, if this makes sense, and if this helped you in some way, and if this is something that you had been struggling with for a long time, and it made sense, then I would love to share I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you like the things that I talk about, then please like, share, and subscribe.